Welcome to our new series, The 200 Movie Challenge. Our goal this year is to watch 200 movies that we haven't seen yet. If you want to listen to the full podcast where this clip is from, the link will be in the description. Now enjoy today's movie.
Speaking about emotions, I don't know. Let's change the tune here and let me tell you about my second and final movie that I watched this week, which you kind of already know. We've been on a little of a wrestling kick, kind of watching old school
A
wrestling.
little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
You actually were able to watch kind of a wrestling movie in the Peanut Butter Falcon earlier this year. And there was a movie that came out in 2019. When we started doing this, I'm like, I kind of want to check this out. And unfortunately, it wasn't free. This was even weeks ago. And then close to every first, I get like a little update, like, hey, this is coming to Tubi. This is coming to Peak. Like, basically, what's new?
Me too. Yep.
And I was like, ooh. And I saw this movie from 2019, Fighting with My Family. Now, Soto, before I even get into the movie, I'm going to have to explain a little bit because you stopped watching wrestling. This is kind of a loosely based on a female wrestler named Paige, who in the WWE during the time you didn't watch. I can't
25 years. 25 years.
And if
25 years. From 2000 on, basically, I stopped watching.
Yeah, I think this is around. She kind of debuted on Raw. She was in NXT first, but she debuted on Raw. I want to say 2014, and had a great debut. Anyhow, but it's basically her life story. I knew a little of her life story beforehand. I've said this in the last book.
Paige.
She was Paige in the WWE. Her real name's Saraya, and that's the name she goes by now in AEW. If she's still there, I don't know if she is or not. She had a neck injury, so she actually had to retire for a little while and it's come back. But yeah, her WWE name was Paige. But basically, I kind of said this. She was almost one of the two, but the main pioneer of where women's wrestling is like the revolution, as they call it. And
well, because it's huge now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's my biggest surprise coming back into wrestling in this phrase right now. Because it's like I skipped 25 years into the future, and I'm so amazed by how prevalent the women's wrestling is, because it used to be a fucking joke.
Yeah.
So before I stopped watching wrestling, it was a fucking joke, and so it's interesting.
So so when you stopped around the Attitude Era, it kind of morphed into a Divas Championship, where there are some skillful ones, but nothing overly entertainment. And yeah, she came onto the scene, and I think you would have been a fan of her since you're kind of a fan of Rhea Ripley. She walks so Rhea could run, basically.
Kind of. Big.
Well, anyhow. But yeah, so she changed it she started the thing from it becoming Divas to actually wrestling. She wasn't overly muscular. She was definitely smaller, but that helped her in the babyface role, the overcoming. But she had skills, because basically this movie, which based on her true story, which I knew, documents her life. She came from kind of a wrestling family, and because her dad would put on shows with her and her brothers fighting, wrestling, excuse me, and she was doing it since she was like 13. Like, she was on like independent shows. So she, even before she came to WWE, she had like an 8-year career, which is crazy to think about. But while they're doing shows, her and her brother were kind of doing like a training session for all the local kids, just a way to keep them going, but at the same time help people stay out of trouble. They even taught a blind kid to wrestle, who I learned afterwards took some gigs, was actually doing wrestling matches afterwards. So like, she is talented. But yeah, so the story goes, Nick Frost is her dad, and it's kind of, he keeps sending the tapes to WWE, like, hey, check out my my daughter and son. They're going to England, and they invite Paige and her brother, Sack Attack, to try out. And they're like, hey, open tryouts, whatever happens, but we'll see what you got. And they both try out, and amongst other people, and Paige is the only one taken. Her brother does not get in. So I like this because it doesn't focus a lot on what happens in WWE. It very glosses over NXT, which, if you know her, you're like, she became NXT champion. They kind of forget that, but I get it. They're trying to do more of the story, but it's also how she's going to WWE on her own, because she doesn't have her family, but it's also the downfall of her brother, because it's his dream. And his dream just got smashed. And his little sister, is now living his dream. So there's a lot of that turmoil. Obviously, because we know the ending, it kind of all works out. This movie also has Vince Vaughn kind of as the trainer, which was I was like, I don't know if
Wow,
this
it's
works out, but
on.
it was good. He was not over the top, and yeah, so I like Vince Vaughn in this because it was a very simplistic role. It had The Rock as The Rock. He was kind of playing himself, which I felt was weird because he wasn't in the WWE in that time, but he was part of the producers of this, so I think they put him in this for star power. But he did feel a little out of place. I get it, he was just there because like, oh, there's The Rock, but it did not help the story that much. They embellished a few things, and you could tell. But yeah, I mean, anyone that was a fan of Paige, this is a great way to see her backstory. And I just, even if you don't know, this is just a fucking good wrestling movie. I think you would enjoy the shit out of this, not knowing anything about her. Um, but yeah, Stephen Merchant directed this, which I found hilarious too. I was like, really? Um,
Wow.
but but yeah, so yeah, she gets NXT, and at that time, like you said, it's all models, blonde, tall, blonde, kind of a little bit different, and she's kind of the outcast, and I think that's why she kind of the fans loved her in NXT because she just had a different look. She wasn't your typical, you know. 6'2" blonde, she even says to them like you're all just tits and ass, but she realizes they're there for their dream too, so there's that understanding.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then it basically ends with whatever, if you follow wrestling, her debut on Raw. Because that was kind of the big moment for her, which they changed a lot. They made it more movie. Because I actually went back to watch this. I'm like, I don't think that's how that happened. Some of the things. So I watched. I'm like, oh no, it didn't happen. They just changed it for movie reasons. But that's okay. If you're watching this for a movie, it's still a good feel good story. But yeah, no, it's basically her journey, but also what her family went through, especially her brother. Because like I said, he kind of went to a dark place. I feel they should have shown more of that. Like they did show a lot of the family, but I felt like they could have gone a little bit more with that brother, because they did show a little. But I feel like they're, because they both had an older brother who was in jail, who also had this dream, but he was like in jail for like a few years too, and he kind of came out towards the end. But yeah, no, this is just it's a good wrestling movie. But anyone that wants to learn about Paige, it's based on a documentary. They actually did a documentary about her life, back in like I think 2012 it says. So I might want to see if I can watch that. I see what the a little bit more of the realistic version is. But this is a good film. If you love wrestling, not even if you didn't know nothing about Paige or nothing about this story, it's just a good story because it's the good underdog story. But it's also she's the misfit, and I think that's why a lot of fans, she was just something different in this world of the typical, hey, this is what attitude wrestling is. This is what now the new this is what divas is, no talent. Hey, they're all just trying to get the next step. They all want to be actresses. They all want to be models. They don't want to be wrestlers. She wanted to be a wrestler. And I think that's what changed.
Right.
So when they added like Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks all in one day, like you just saw like the talent was coming. And yeah, someone had to start it, and she did. Her and AJ Lee, AJ Lee was a part of it, two smaller women, but it was still a fucking good movie. So like I said, if you get a chance, I think just as a wrestling fan, you would just like it. Definitely a hell of a lot better than Peanut Butter Falcon, in my opinion. I didn't see it, but from what you told me, I would think this is a lot better.
Peanut Butter Falcon, again, it was okay until it wasn't okay. I don't think Peanut Butter Falcon's a bad movie, but this sounds a little bit more put together. Peanut Butter Falcon is more just it's a Shia LaBeouf kind of vehicle a little bit, but it just gets into this really sort of very kind of sort of idealistic kind of way, and it just didn't do it for me. Jake the Snake was in it though.
Yeah, there wasn't outside The Rock. I don't think there's too many other actual wrestlers that were in this, which is fine. It wasn't meant to be that. But yeah, like I said, they very glossed over the NXT matches because the one thing they don't bring up was she was NXT champion when she debuted on Raw, and that was the big thing. And so they kind of skipped that part. Like, so if you know that, what a big moment that was. In this, they kind of changed the feel, or it was more this, hey, she's going to get a shot kind of thing. Let's see how she does. By then, she was established. Like, she knew how to handle herself in the ring, but just with the crowd and stuff like that. So they played it up.
Like,
they definitely NXT is like the developmental.
NXT.
That's what the
okay. It's like the minor league.
Yeah, so they do that. So they can work on characters. Sometimes even Rhea Ripley had to change a look and change of characters before she found her footing, what she is. So it's a way they can mess things around, but it's like it's basically the minor leagues. Sometimes some people on Raw and SmackDown, if they're not doing anything, they'll go down to NXT to maybe try out a few things, but also work with the younger talent. So yeah, it's basically developmental. It's a new Triple H was running it. Now Shawn Michaels is running NXT because Triple H is running basically everything else. So yeah.
And where does Joe Hendry come from? Where's he
that's TNA. That's a different
Okay, all right, we'll get into
organization.
that.
They just have a
Different
working
podcast. Okay.
relationship with TNA.
But he showed up in fucking the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
though.
because basically, yeah, working
All right, we'll get
now TNA champions. But anyhow, yeah, so it's just they have a working relationship. You missed out on TNA a little bit. I didn't really get into it. They invented the
certainly
6-sided ring and then went to 4-sided, but it was just something
It
different.
looks
But
stupid. but
it was,
yeah.
but it gave them an identity. But anyhow, yeah, Fighting with Your Family, definitely a great movie because though they focus a little bit on the training and what it takes to become a wrestler, they didn't go too over involved. It was more just a personal story of Paige. And I did like that. I do feel they could have showed a little more with the brother because he was his girlfriend was pregnant, so he was dealing with a lot. So he thought when he got the WWE shot, this is his big shot. He thought he was going to be the one because he loved it. But yeah, he went through a lot and, it was good. Again, all worked out. Even in real life, they kind of said what they're all doing now. So, but where I rank this, it was good. I would actually watch this again. I do want to see the documentary. I'm putting this at number 6. It's going to be right underneath Clerks 3, but right above Air. That's kind of right where I rank it. Because I enjoyed it. This was just a very enjoyable. Even if I knew nothing of Paige, I enjoy. I would say this is actually a really good film. It did help that I knew a little of her career and where she came from, but outside of that, yeah, they did it great. I think The Rock was just out of place, but it's The Rock. He does his catchphrases. He's The Rock. You just love him. You're like, all right, it's okay. Do what you got to do. But he was not around WWE at that time. He was doing movies and shit. So it just felt like you don't really belong here, but you know what? You're The Rock. You can do what you want. But it was made by WWE Studio. So obviously, yeah, they were going to put money into it and he was going to do it. So, but anyone that's listening, if you're a wrestling fan, see this. If you want a good wrestling movie, it's fucking good. So
I'm intrigued.
It is. Like I said, check it out, and if you got a chance. But so I think that'll end it for us this week. We got quarter 1. 12 weeks, 52 movies officially. So we're good on pace. Do you have
solid fucking week, man?
Yep, 4. That's usually where we need to be. You have
solid fucking week.
I know your weekend's going to be packed. Do you think you're going to be able to watch anything for next week? Do you have any ideas yet?
Yeah, I do. Right now I got very light watch. But Terrence Malick's Tree of Life starring Brad Pitt has just come on to HBO. I also get these little emails of what's new on these streaming services. So we're not leaving for Salem until much later in the afternoon on Saturday. Sarah has to work in the daytime, so I'm going to have the morning to myself. And so I'll probably spend it watching a 3-hour movie. And I did see Paddington 2, I think on Tubi as well. So yeah, I have about 4 or 5 days off.
That's right.
So I'll be back by Sunday, and yeah, I definitely think I might go 2. And if I'm feeling kind of cheeky, I might go 3. Because Tuesday, I'll have like the whole day, and on Tuesday. I'm just waiting for people to come by our apartment. So I'm just gonna be in wait mode, and you know what you do when you wait? You just watch a movie.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm watching. I will say Mel's been trying to get a couple movie ideas she wanted me to see. Like there's a Josh Hartnett movie called Fight or Flight. There's a couple others. I'm like, all right, listen, I'll try and watch one of them, but I did see that Paddington 2 was on Tubi. It popped up and I laughed. I'm like,
yeah,
is it gonna happen? But I don't know where I'm going. A lot of times I just put it on a service and like what jumps out at me. So we'll see. I have nothing planned. But that will do it for the 200 movie challenge, episode 12. 4 movies, 4 definitely different movies. Not the worst. We got a little musical in there for you. We got a good cheesy 80s movie.
There was so much music in that. That's about as much music as I could take in a movie. Just FYI.
It just felt like it was okay though. Like I said, I didn't think it was just
It
they're
was
singing the
just
dialogue and they're
enough.
just like "Mama Me" in
Yeah.
it. So yeah, it was mostly.
I can't do the music stuff. I'm
Take a break. It's okay. You don't
I do
need
like
to.
say cup of tea. Not my cup of tea.
It's all right. But now everyone just have a good one and just go out and watch some good movies.
I said play, bitch.